Coming in at number 31, we have the Minnesota Wild, who dropped 2 spots from number 29 to number 31, the worst in the league. They're 1-6 after 7 games, and their one win came against the Ottawa Senators. They have allowed 29 goals, and they've only scored 14, and their minus 15 goal differential is the worst in the league, actually. They're on a 2-game losing streak, and things don't look good. It's never a good sign when Brad Hunt is leading your team in points and goals. They just have a lot of problems, The veterans aren't playing very well. Everyone's a minus on that team. Like, Eric Stahl's a minus 10 after 7 games. Matt Dumba's minus 9, Things just aren't good, Combine that with the fact Jason Zucker, his comments about the team needing to be better, the coach needing to be better. Things just aren't looking very good in Minnesota. And it's funny because, people were saying, oh, well, they might be a playoff team after, because Matt Dumba got hurt. They were saying he's going to be back this season. The Wild are going to be good. They might be a playoff team. But it's just been a disastrous start so far for the Wild. And they find themselves at the bottom of the power rankings at number 31. Coming in at number 30, the Ottawa Senators. They were number 30 last week, and they're number 30 this week. So after playing 7 games, they are 1-5-1. Their goal differential is a minus 11, which is not very good. And they are on a 3-game losing streak. If you take a look at some of the stats, Jean-Gabriel Pageau has 5 points in 6 games, and he's actually a plus 4. Connor Brown's playing well, he's a plus 3, he's got 5 assists in 6 games. And Nemesnikov, who they picked up from the Rangers, is actually playing pretty well with them as well. It's just, they don't have enough good players to, have a competitive team which can, win enough games to make the playoffs or anything. They're going to be a bottom feeder in this league, at least this year for sure. So the Senators staying put at number 30, not moving, not dropping. I mean, it's pretty hard to drop when you're number 30. But funny enough, their one win on the season came against Tampa Bay, so don't know how that happened, but yeah, it did. So anyway, number 30 are the Ottawa Senators. Coming in at number 29, the Dallas Stars. So they actually dropped 3 spots as they were number 26 the week before. And their record is terrible. They've played 10 games, which is the most in the NHL, and they're 2-7-1 with only 5 points. Their goal differential is a minus 10 as well, and they just snapped a 5-game losing skid against the Philadelphia Flyers. Their team is really struggling. Guys like Joe Pavelski, 1 goal, 1 assist in 9 games. Jamie Benn, 1 goal, 2 assists. He's a minus 3. Klingberg, minus 6. Radek Fox is a minus 7. Really, the only 2 players who've been producing are Rupe Hintz and Miro Heiskanen, which Miro Heiskanen is super underrated, fantastic skater. But yeah, aside from that, Dallas has just really been a disappointment. A lot of people considering them, maybe even Stanley Cup contenders, definitely playoff. They should be able to make the playoffs, but really disappointing start for Dallas Stars fans, and you need to see more out of guys like Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, Radulov. It's tough to watch if you're a Dallas fan, so hopefully they get back on track. But as for now, they've dropped 3 spots, and they find themselves in at number 29. Dropping 1 spot to number 28 are the New Jersey Devils, and, after a really tough start, they've actually won 2 in a row, but they're still 2-4-2, which is not very good. They've allowed 31 goals, which is almost the most in the league, I think. I think it's Winnipeg who has 33, but they're definitely up there. Their goal differential, minus 12. Like I mentioned, they're on a 2-game winning streak, but those are their first 2 wins of the season. They really need some guys to get going, like Taylor Hall. He only has 1 goal in 7 games. They need some of their big guns to get going. Nico Hischier hasn't scored yet. Jack Hughes got his first goal today, actually, which is good. Hughes has looked good. He's been a little snake-bitten, but I think he'll get, back on track here pretty soon. Depth players, if they could get guys like Wayne Simmons to get going, even Miles Wood maybe. Pavel Zacha's looked good, as has Nikita Gusev, but, they need some scoring and they need definitely some goaltending, that's for sure. PK Subban, a little bit of a rough start to the season. He's looked a little weak defensively, but as for now, the Devils, they will come in at number 28. Coming in at number 27, we have the Los Angeles Kings, who fall 3 spots from number 24 last week. They did beat Calgary tonight, so they are 3-5 after 8 games, but that was to end a 3-game losing streak in which they were shut out twice back-to-back. Guys like Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, they've been alright, they've been good, but Jonathan Quick has struggled so much, and that's probably part of the reason for the Kings, not so great start to the season. Guys like Ilya Kovalchuk -6, Martinez -8, Jeff Carter -6. It's been a rough start for the Kings, decent start, but a rough start at the same time. So when you're 3-5, obviously you're not going to find yourself too high. And because of that, and their poor week in which they got shut out back-to-back, they find themselves dropping 3 spots to number 27. Coming in at number 26, the biggest drop of the week, the New York Rangers. They dropped 18 spots. Last week I had them at number 8, partially because they'd only played 2 games. They played 3 games this week, and they lost each one. They lost Edmonton 4-1, and then they lost back-to-back games 5-2 against the Capitals, and I believe it was the New Jersey Devils. So Mika Zibanejad still playing at 2 points per game. He's got 10 points in 5 games. But aside from that, there's not a lot of secondary scoring. Jacob Trouba is playing well. Panarin, of course, is playing well. But the Rangers, they've just struggled over this last week. They lost all 3, and now their goal differential is at a -4. So just really rough week for them, and that's how it goes in these power rankings. You can quite easily, go up and down depending on how bad your week is. If you win 3, you can go up 18. You lose 3, you can go down 18. So after a fantastic start, maybe the Rangers were a little bit of a victim of playing 1 game in 1 week kind of thing. But they lost all 3 in their week. Didn't look really particularly as sharp as they did in the first 2. And because of that, they are all the way down at number 26. Coming in at number 25, same case as the Rangers, are the Philadelphia Flyers, who dropped 15 spots. They went on a 4-game losing streak after winning their first 2 games. They looked very good in the first 2, and they haven't looked as good in the last 4, which is obvious because they lost them all. They had a terrible road trip out in Western Canada. They lost to Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, and they just lost to the Dallas Stars, who are also having a really bad start to their season. So because of that, I dropped them 15 spots all the way down to 25. About the only ones producing are Travis Konechny, and Oscar Lindblom has 3 goals in 5 games. He's been good, but they need more production from their stars like Giroux and Voracek. Kevin Hayes, after signing that ridiculous contract, has 1 goal in 5 games. He's a -2, so he needs to step up as well. Their next game is against the Vegas Golden Knights, so a tough game. And the Flyers better look to start winning again here, because a 4-game losing streak is not good news, which is why they're all the way down at number 25. Coming in at number 24, we have the Detroit Red Wings, who, much like the Philadelphia Flyers, they went out to Western Canada. They lost to the Oilers, Flames, and Canucks. And because of that, they have a 4-game losing streak now, which is, it's too bad considering they had a really good start to the season. Their top line of Mantha, Bertuzzi, and Larkin is still about a point per game, and they're all plus players. But after that, it's a struggle for the Red Wings. They just don't have enough depth or good enough defense to, continue winning a substantial amount of games. Their goals differential, I should say, is at -9, and they've given up 28 goals in just 8 games. And because of all that, they've fallen 9 spots from number 15 down to number 24. And falling 7 spots to number 23, we have the Winnipeg Jets, which is a shame because they started off on such a good run, but they've lost 3 in a row, and they find themselves at 4-5, which is actually below 500, which, a team like the Jets, they should not be that low. They should be able to definitely win half their games. But their problem is they're giving up too many goals. Their last 3 games, they've given up 14 goals, including 7 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And aside from their big players like Scheifele and Laine and Ehlers, Blake Wheeler, it's tough to expect too much. He's such a good player. He's a captain. He's a good leader, but he's a -4. He only has 6 points in 9 games. Kyle Connor's a -7. And their blue line, it really took a hit, losing Trouba and Tyler Myers and Dustin Byfuglien. It's really hard to win with a defense in the NHL, and it's showing for the Winnipeg Jets. It's just when you have guys like, Tucker Poolman, Anthony Bitetto, Carl Dahlstrom, no offense to any of those guys, but, when they're playing, even Dmitry Kulikov, when they're playing top 4 minutes, it's really tough to win. Ville Heinola, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's been great. He's got a goal and 3 assists in his 6 games, and he looks really good, and I think he's only 18 or 19, it's incredible. He's definitely a stud back there. But yeah, the Jets, big losing streak, 3 in a row, and including 7 to the Penguins. They need to figure the defense out, and for that reason, they've dropped 7 spots to number 23. Coming in at number 22, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, who were tough to rank in the first week because they only played one game. Well, they've played 5 now, and they're 2-2-1. After losing their first 3 games, they actually went on a 2-game winning streak. They beat the Oilers and broke their unbeaten streak, and then they beat Columbus as well. Patrick Kane has 7 points in 5 games, continuing, right where he left off. He leads their team in almost everything. Gustafson's played well, and DeBrincat has 2 goals and 4 points in 5 games. So, the Blackhawks, they're a bubble team. They play well sometimes they don't. But because of their 2-game winning streak, it's kind of put them back at 500. Their goal differential is, flat even. It's 15-15. And because of that, they don't drop too far. They only drop 3 spots to number 22. And hey, we have our first team rising. Coming in at number 21, the Vancouver Canucks, who are up 4 spots from number 25. They are 4-3 after 7 games, and their goal differential is actually a +7, which is pretty good. They did lose their last game, which is a 1-0 loss to the Devils, in which Hughes scored his first NHL goal. It was kind of the Hughes versus Hughes battle. But they did go on a 4-game winning streak before that, including beating the Stanley Cup champs, the Blues. The Canucks, if they had a better start, they would be a lot higher on this list, but because they're barely over 500, it's hard to rank them. Pettersson, Besser, and JT Miller actually are playing very well. And their depth is actually playing pretty well, too. It's just, they gotta, I don't know, it's tough for the Canucks to win games. Everything has to go right for them. But Jacob Markstrom, definitely one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL for sure. Quinn Hughes looks like an absolute stud back there on defense. He's fun to watch. But yeah, the Canucks, after a 4-game winning streak, did lose their last game, so that pulled them up to 4-3, and it actually pulled them up 4 spots in the power rankings to number 21. And jumping 11 spots to number 20 are the San Jose Sharks. The Sharks had an abysmal start to the season, but they've actually poured it on recently. They won 3 in a row, before losing to the Buffalo Sabres tonight. They beat, some good teams. They beat the Hurricanes, they beat the Flames, and they beat the Blackhawks, and they're scoring more goals. I don't know if it's because Patrick Marleau's back or what it is, but they are definitely scoring more goals. Their goal differential is still in the negatives. They are at -6, but guys like Brent Burns have turned it around. He's got 7 points in 7 games. So does Logan Couture. Erik Karlsson, he's got 4 points in 6 games. These guys still are, in the minus category, but things have turned around for the San Jose Sharks, and because of that, they find themselves jumping up 11 spots to number 20. Coming in at number 19 are the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're a 500 team, 3-3-2. Their goal differential is a -8, and they're on a very win one, lose one sort of season. Their next game is against the Toronto Maple Leafs, so that should be a good test for them. They've lost quite a few key players, and they're struggling, but they're not struggling. I don't know. They're a weird team to make out. Gustav Nyquist, Alexander Wenberg, and Pierre-Luc Dubois all have 4 points in 7 games, and they're all tied for the lead. But they're going to need a lot more scoring if they want to keep it up. I have a feeling they're going to fall in the coming weeks. But as of right now, win one, lose one is kind of good enough for, around the 20th. So they're up 4 spots. After a terrible first week, they've kind of straightened it out, and they are at number 19. Coming in at number 18, we have the Florida Panthers, and same thing with them. They're another win one, lose one team right now. They are 3-2-3 after 8 games with a goal differential of -5. They're actually on a 1-game winning streak, but that came after blowing a lead to the Colorado Avalanche and losing. But, big bounce back win against Nashville. Mike Hoffman, Jonathan Huberdeau, Evgeny Dadonov, Alex Barkov, Brett Connolly. They've played well. They have got secondary scoring. Barkov doesn't have a goal this season yet, so once he turns it on, the Florida Panthers will be a lot better. Bobrovsky still getting used to, playing for a different team. I think he'll start having some better games. But the Florida Panthers, it would not surprise me if they climbed in this list for sure. But as of right now, they're not struggling, but they're not doing great to the season. So kind of a win one, lose one team as of now. But it's bumped them up 4 spots to number 18. Dropping 10 spots to number 17 are your defending Stanley Cup champions, the St. Louis Blues, who, after a great start to the season, have lost 4 in a row, and they're 3-2-3 right now. They lost 2 games to Montreal, a game to the Canucks, and a game to the Islanders. So, a great start to the season, and I thought, wow, they don't have any rust, but after, a rough last 4 games, they are, sitting at number 17, they're 500 or so, and they've got a lot of players who are in the minus, actually. Vince Dunn, who's a +3, leads their team, along with David Perron and Sammy Blais. Braden Shen has 5 goals and 8 points in 7 games, so he's been good. Ryan O'Reilly, Vladimir Tarasenko have all been good. Petrangelo's been good as well, but they don't seem to be putting, they got good stats, but they don't seem to be getting wins. So, rough last week for the St. Louis Blues, and like I said in the power rankings, if you have a bad week, you can drop quite a few spots. So, the Blues still with a decent record, a .500 record, but very tough week, and it leaves them dropping 10 spots to number 17. Dropping 2 spots to number 16 are the Calgary Flames, who are 4-3-1, and they just lost tonight against the Los Angeles Kings, a team they should have beat, but they didn't. Their goal differential isn't bad; it's a +1, so it's pretty much even. But the Flames, they're losing to opponents they should be beating. Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk lead the way with 7 points in 8 games, but their goaltending situation is a little shaky. David Riddick and Cam Talbot, not the absolute confidence in those 2 guys. So definitely, the Flames need to prove themselves here. Do they have what it takes to hang with the big boys in the league kind of thing, So after a somewhat decent week, the Flames, they find themselves basically the same spot, dropping from 18 to 16. And up 2 spots to number 15 are your Tampa Bay Lightning, who, let's be honest, that's disappointing for them. They're 4-3-1 to start the season, and that includes a 6-2 loss to the Avalanche tonight. And really, the Tampa Bay Lightning are their own worst enemy. They're just, they think they're so good, and they are good, but they get caught in that, like Stamkos said, we expect to win because we're so good. Stamkos does lead the way, he's got 9 points. Kucherov has 8 points. And, Victor Hedman's 6 points, but he's a -2. They got some issues to work on in Tampa Bay. Mostly just, they're so good. How do they, take that and turn it into a gritty, cup-winning team? So, a little bit disappointing for the Tampa Bay Lightning to be in the middle of the pack here, but it's only been a couple weeks into the season, and I'm sure they will definitely climb in the power rankings coming. But right now, they're stuck in the middle. Number 15, up 2 from last week. Coming in at number 14 are the Nashville Predators, who, same spot last week, they didn't move at all. Their record, exact same as Tampa Bay, 4-3-1. Their goal differential is practically even. They have scored the second most goals in the league, actually. They're the third most, after Colorado and Toronto, as the Predators have 32, but at the same time, they can't keep the puck out of their net. They've allowed 31, which is the second most as well. So high-scoring games for the Nashville Predators. They're actually on a 2-game losing streak, and their next game is against the high-flying Anaheim Ducks. But, the Predators' difficult team. Is it Saros finally taking over from Pekka Rinne? Matt Duchene fit in perfectly. He looks great in Nashville. Philip Forsberg, he's got 5 goals, 8 points in 6 games. And they still do have a good team over there, but their window is closing quickly. So, cup contender this year, possibly, but the Predators right now, about a .500 record, and they haven't moved from the first week when they did the exact same thing. So, staying at number 14. Coming in at number 13, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're dropped 4 spots down from number 9 from the previous week. They're 5-3-1. Their goal differential is +4, and they are the highest scoring team in the league, tied with Colorado. But they've played 1 more game, so they've won 3 out of their last 4, with their only loss being to the Washington Capitals. And Morgan Riley actually leads the team in points. Well, he's tied for it, but he's got 9 assists in 8 games. Mitch Marner has 9 points as well, fresh off that fucking insane contract. Austin Matthews, 7 goals in 8 games, only 1 assist. But the real story to me is Ilya Mikheyev. He's got 6 goals in 8 games. He's a +5. He looks great out there. Fantastic pickup. Definitely a, solid player for them to gain for sure. The Leafs, their biggest question, as always, are they gritty enough, tough enough? Is their defense good enough to be a true Stanley Cup contender? They can definitely score. They're a fun team to watch, But it's just, same old for the Maple Leafs. Can they beat out the Bruins? They did beat them tonight, actually. It took overtime, but, they did come out with a victory. So, a little bit of a tough week for the Maple Leafs. But they're, on the bubble right now. They're at number 13, dropping 4 spots, but, still definitely a top team in the NHL. And coming in at number 12, the exact same spot they were last week, the Montreal Canadiens. They're 4-2-2, which is a good start for them. Their goal differential is +5, and there's two things. Number one, they're scoring goals with 31 goals, which ranks among the top in the league. Number two, their power play is definitely finally clicking along. Guys like Jonathan Drouin, Shea Weber, their power play is really good, which is definitely a step up from fucking last in the league last year. They've won 2 in a row, and they've actually beaten the St. Louis Blues twice, including winning 3 of their last 4. And the Canadiens are finally back on a roll. Brendan Gallagher's leading their team in points, but Jonathan Drouin, Max Domi, even Yoel Armia, they're playing very well. The Habs definitely deserve a top 10 spot, but because of the way other teams are playing, I can't really put them up too much further, but they do stay at number 12. Very solid start for the Montreal Canadiens. And moving up 10 spots to just outside spot number 10, we have the New York Islanders. And what a week they had. They went on a 4-game winning streak. So after that, not so great start, the Islanders are now 5-3. They've won 4 in a row, like I said. And they're playing some of the stingiest defense in the league. They've only allowed 20 goals in 8 games, which is, there's not that many teams who have allowed more. It's like, I think they're like 5th or 6th best. Matt Barzal, he's really turned it on lately. He's got 6 points in 7 games, including 3 goals. Same with Josh Bailey. Devon Taves actually surprising from the back end. He's got 5 points in 7 games. And, the Isles, they're really a defense-first team. And if they can score, they will have success, which recently is what they've been doing. So if they can continue that, definitely good. And who knows, they might even make the playoffs. But as for now, with a 4-game winning streak, they jump up 10 spots in the rankings to number 11. And starting things off in the top 10, we have the Vegas Golden Knights up 3 spots to number 10 this week. They are currently 6-3. Their goal differential is really good, +11. They're on a 2-game winning streak, having beaten the Senators and the Penguins, in which Fleury got a shutout against his old team. And a bunch of guys look good. Mark Stone looks good. Pacioretty looks good. They have 2 lines who can score. They have the Smith, Carlson, and Marchessault line, and then Stone, Pacioretty, and rookie Cody Glass looks really good as well. They have some good depth, and they have good defense, And obviously Fleury in the back, he's lights out most of the time. So the Vegas Golden Knights definitely a cup contender in my eyes this year for sure. And because of their good start, 6-3, they have moved up into the top 10, 3 ranks. And dropping 8 spots, last week's number 1, the Carolina Hurricanes fall all the way to number 9 this week. They're still 6-3, but they've lost 3 out of their last 4, and the only one they won was against the relatively weak Los Angeles Kings. And one guy who really needs to get going is Sebastian Aho. Just 2 goals and 3 points in 9 games. But, his slack has been picked up by Eric Holla, who has 7 goals in 9 games. Svechnikov's played well. Dzingel's played well. Dougie Hamilton has 10 points in 9 games. He's been great from the back end. But the Canes, losing 3 of their last 4, have fallen in the power rankings and are now down to number 9 after a tough week. And for your biggest mover of the week, the Arizona Coyotes up 20 spots to number 8, and it's all because of their defense. Their first few games, they struggled. They didn't score much. They weren't allowing much, but they couldn't score. But they've figured it out. They're scoring, and they're still not allowing much. They have the best goals against in the league, only 13 in 7 games, which isn't even 2 per game. They're on a current 3-game winning streak against the Jets, the Predators, and the Sens. They all won. And, their goaltending has been unbelievable. And their offense is finally starting to get going. Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller, Phil Kessel got his first as a Arizona Coyote. That sounds so weird to say. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's been good, but the Arizona Coyotes playing some tougher teams, and they really look like they could be a playoff, contender. I do see the Coyotes making the playoffs, and, just fantastic defense. If their offense can keep it up, definitely can, but they're up a huge amount to number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have another team jumping up 13 spots. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins. And man, I don't know how they do it. They're currently 6-3. They have a +9 goal differential, and they just got shut out by the Vegas Golden Knights. But prior to that, they had a 5-game winning streak, and they're missing so many players. I don't know how they do that. But guys like Sam Lafferty, he's got 3 goals and 5 points in 6 games. Brandon Tanev stepping up. Joe Blandisi, Adam Johnson, Dominic Cahoon. They got so many guys stepping up. Crosby, of course, leading the way, 12 points in 8 games, Chris Letang, 10 points in 8 games. Just the Penguins, someone goes down, someone jumps right in to take their spot. They play such a good system. They're a fun team to watch. But the Pittsburgh Penguins, injuries can't stop them. They went on a 5-game winning streak before getting shut out here, and because of that, they've jumped up 13 spots in the power rankings to number 7. Coming in at number 6, we have the Washington Capitals, who are 5-2-2, and they've been on a 2-game winning streak as they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs and the New York Rangers back-to-back. John Carlson has been on absolute tear. He's tied for the points lead with Connor McDavid. He's got 17 points in 9 games. Ovechkin, Backstrom, Oshie, Kuznetsov, they're playing great as well. The Capitals have not really changed from this week to last week, but they're playing solid hockey, and once again, they're definitely going to be a cup contender. Me being a biased Caps fan, I think they can win the cup for sure, but, time will tell. But a very solid week for the Capitals, and they find themselves at number 6. Coming in at number 5 are the Boston Bruins, so same place as last week. They are 5-1-2 in their first 8 games. They have lost to the Maple Leafs and the Lightning back-to-back, but the Maple Leafs one was an overtime loss. So their next game actually is against the Maple Leafs again, so that should be a good game. Pasternak, Marchand, Bergeron, best line in hockey maybe, second best line, who knows, but they've been on absolute fire so far. Pasternak has 8 goals, 13 points in 7 games. But aside from that, their depth needs to show up. Their next player with, aside from Torrey Krug, who has 6 points, but Sean Corelli, 2 assists in 7 games. Other than that, guys like Charlie Coyle, 1 assist in 7 games. He needs to step up. The Bruins, they're not a one-line team, but early on in this season they have been, and they definitely need more production from other lines if they're going to get going. So because of that, I have them staying at number 5 after a pretty decent week. And at number 4, we have the Buffalo Sabres, who did drop 2 spots, but that's only because other teams played so well. The Sabres are 6-1-1 through their first 8 games, and they're looking to make the playoffs, and this start definitely will help them. They've just beat the Kings and the Sharks. They won tonight against the Sharks, so they're on a 2-game losing streak after losing to the Ducks 5-2. And they look deadly. Jack Eichel, Rasmus Dahlin, Victor Olofsson, all playing well. They're at a point-per-game pace. And it's all about goaltending, but Carter Hutton has been absolutely phenomenal for the Sabres. And a pretty good week for them. They don't change much, just drop 2 spots, but they're still in the top 5. So good week for the Sabres, and they are in at number 4. Up 1 spot to number 3, the Anaheim Ducks. The only reason I have them ahead of the Sabres is because they just beat them. They're 6-2. They're on a 2-game winning streak against the Sabres and the Hurricanes, who were the top 2 teams last week. Or were the Sabres 3? No, I think there were 2. Yeah, they were the top 2 teams last week. And the Ducks have been great. They've been very, very good, which is, fun to see. Guys like Ricardo Cal, +8, Silverberg, +9, Adam Henrique and Cam Fowler, +7. Just everyone on their team has been pitching in, and they've only allowed 14 goals, which after the Arizona Coyotes is the best in the league right now. But they've played 1 more game than the Arizona Coyotes as well, so they could have the best goals against in the league. Gibson, phenomenal goalie. Definitely top 5 for sure in my book. But the Anaheim Ducks, 2-game winning streak against 2 tough teams, and that has propelled them up 1 spot to number 3. And that brings us to number 2, up 1 spot from last week, your Edmonton Oilers. That's right, your 7-1 Edmonton Oilers. Who would have thought, man? They've got 31 goals in 8 games. Their goal differential is +11. And after losing to the Blackhawks 3-1 in a game, you could argue they should have won, they've responded well. No more Oilers of late where they just lose 4 in a row and suddenly go back to 500. They've won 2 straight games against the Flyers and the Red Wings. Their next game is against the Jets. So, maybe keep the winning streak going. But it's all Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And a little bit of James Neal as well. Oscar Klefbom's played well, Darnell Nurse has played well, but McDavid and Draisaitl, 17 points and 16 points. They're 1-2 in scoring, basically, if you don't include John Carlson. But they were 1-2 in scoring for a little while there, but it's just, what McDavid can do is incredible. He might single-handedly carry this team to the playoffs, just put them on his back and be like, fuck this, I want to play some playoff hockey. But yeah, the Oilers, they look fantastic. They look like a completely different team. And they are up 1 spot to number 2. And you know what that means. Coming in at number 1 this week, the Colorado Avalanche. 7-0-1, the only team in the league that is unbeaten in regulation, and a goal differential of plus 14, which is also the best. They got 35 goals, tied for the most in the league with the Maple Leafs, and only 21 against. They're on a 2-game winning streak after losing to the Penguins in overtime, in which Gabriel Landeskog scored the overtime winner. So really, they haven't lost from another team yet. They just beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 6-2, resounding win, definitely a statement there. Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, both 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points in 7 games. Burakovsky has 4 goals, 4 assists, and 8 points. It's great to see him tearing it up over there. Jonas Donskoi, 6 points in 7 games. Nazem Kadri, 4 points. Like, their additions they made are just that everyone's playing very, very well. Tyson Jost just had a hat trick against the Lightning, and honestly, the Colorado Avalanche are going to be a very, very fun team to watch. Very young, very fast, and man, how good is Cale Makar? Incredible, and even guys like Sammy Girard, JT Compher. The Avalanche are going to be a very fun team to watch. They're going to be a powerhouse for years to come. Fantastic week for them, and they find themselves all the way up 10 spots at number 1. So if you guys like this power rankings, let me know what I can do differently, what I can improve. I know it was a longer video. I wanted to take my time a little bit more with this one. It takes a long time to edit, but that's okay. Leave your opinions, thoughts, suggestions in the comments below. Tell me what you agreed on or disagreed on. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.